I think the big thing that I find for entrepreneurs now is don't overextend yourself. You already have a full-time job as an entrepreneur. Whatever you invest in from a container standpoint should get you something, right? Whether it's the network, the community, the tools, the strategies, getting you prepped for another revenue stream.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I have something for you. If you want to pretty much get the cliff notes of just about every podcast that Chris and I have done together, just about every quickie that I've ever done. If you want to know how our brains work and what has made us work and made us successful, Chris and I had released a course quite a few years ago. And this course did amazing. We charged almost $1,000 for it. So many people loved it. Thousands and thousands of people have gone through it. And we recently decided that we wanted to open that up to you and give it to you for free for being our listeners. So you guys, if you want to go and get that course, which I don't know how long we're going to give it away for free, you can go to becomealigned.com right now and it's yours. You can start it right now. You can listen to it in the morning. You can listen to it before you go to bed. It's not a big commitment. You can go there right now and find out all of the tools that we use. And you can actually turn it into a workshop if you want to do it. You can take it step by step, however you want to do it, so that you can literally go and start changing your life right now. It's at becomealigned.com. And now on to the show today. I just got done interviewing our incredible guest, and I'm so excited because this is a topic that has really plagued me. And that topic is money. And I used to be so afraid to look at numbers. I felt like I wasn't good with numbers. I was in a massive state of avoidance. And this woman coming into my life, who you will meet, Bridgette Boucha, is somebody that has really opened up my mind in my business to making it fun, to having this be something that I actually look forward to, really knowing my numbers and getting excited about setting goals around them. She's an entrepreneur, a CFO, and now an author. So she just wrote the book called Money Queen. And you guys, it is out right now for you. It's a simple financial framework for successful entrepreneurs to run a profitable business while living a fuller life. And in this podcast, we talk so much about that and how she's changed my life with my business and how I look at business. And we're going to identify different patterns that you might have that are holding you back. We're going to talk about the Money Queen model that is made up of the 4 R's. You guys, this is going to be a game changer. And also, you're going to really learn about where your time and energy is best spent, along with really going after your lack mentality and really looking at where you still might have it and reframing that train of thought so you can live a massively abundant life. So you guys, I can't wait to get started. Let's dive in. Bridgette, welcome to the Earn Your Happy podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the show again.
Glad to be back.
So you guys, if you did not know, if you've not tuned in the last few years, Bridgette has been a part of my team, a fractional part of my team, which is so exciting. I've absolutely loved working with you as a fractional CFO, part of a team with Amanda as well. And I can honestly say that I feel so much more empowered and excited around money. And I can't picture a better person for not only this conversation, but you also have an incredible book out. And the reason I'm so excited about it is because people now have the access to a lot of the tools that I have gotten through hiring you without, everyone, without having to maybe spend what I spent, even though I love that I spent every cent of it. But for a lot of people on different parts of their journeys, you've now put your wisdom all in one spot, which is very exciting. Of course, we know the wisdom wells go much deeper than that. But I want to talk about this, Bridgette, because you have been somebody who's been on a journey yourself. And I would love to know why you wrote this book. First, let's say what it's called, because I love it. But what is it called? Why did you write this book?
Yes. So the book is called Money Queen. And, it speaks to me in so many different ways. Yes, I'm glad it resonates as well. I mean, it tells you the book's about money. It tells you how I want you to feel about money, like royalty, really empowered and educated. And dawn is the day of financial empowerment. I mean, there's just so many entrepreneurs out there. And, the reason that I wrote this book is really to be able to reach more people. I became an entrepreneur 7 years ago. I was a corporate CFO prior to that. So I was used to managing money. I was way into spreadsheets, way into metrics and money, but it wasn't my money. I had resources. I had a team. So being a corporate CFO did very little to prepare me for entrepreneurship. So going on that journey myself and starting to serve entrepreneurs in this environment over the last several years has allowed me to identify some patterns, some areas of trip up, some money stories, and different areas that we might be able to look a little bit deeper, because your money story is just going to get amplified when you start a business. So over the course of these last several years of working with so many different entrepreneurs and identifying these patterns, I thought, oh my gosh, I just need to get this into a physical, tangible framework so that I can reach the people that either are scaling and aren't ready to hire a fractional CFO yet, or they're just looking to be able to build their baseline, right? So we all have a money baseline, and the higher that it is, the quicker that you can rise from it. And so my goal is to get this into your hands, give you something actionable, tangible, soulful, fun, to be able to help really determine how you can run a profitable business while living a fuller life, raise that baseline, and just, watch you soar from there. That's the most exciting part about business, in my opinion, is being able to build it in a way that helps us live a fuller life.
Yes. Amen. I feel that, and have felt every single way about money that you can ever imagine. I've been scared of it. I have pushed it away. I have been desperate for it. I have done all of the things for and with money. And my question first is, what do you feel is the difference between managing your own money and managing others? What would you say energetically for you was like the biggest shift?
It comes down to the fact that you have more control over your own. And I want to use that phrase in an empowering way. Like, yes, I do have more control. If I'm a business owner, I can generate the revenue. I can manage the cash. I can surround myself with the right resources and tools and systems to be able to make my money work for me. In the simplest form, when you work for somebody else, they keep the profits. When you work for you, you keep the profits and you get to determine what to do with them. And there's nothing more exciting about that if entrepreneurship is on your heart. So then taking the tools and getting the framework in place to be able to do that, it becomes limitless.
So I'm observing all of the different patterns and different phases of our past business and then in my current business. And I kind of keep seeing some of the same patterns come up. Even recently, it's kind of like the importance of really investing in the business and trying to figure out where to invest and being like, oh, okay, well, we really want to do that, but I think the cost is way too high, or continuing to be like, maybe have a different expectation of what we think things cost. I think especially as entrepreneurs, it's very easy to be like, wait, for that service, it costs this much. That's crazy. And then we end up like doing nothing, or finding people who aren't very good and wasting a ton of money. What are some of the patterns that you have even seen within yourself around money? And then let's talk about some of those patterns that you're seeing in other people as well.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs who kind of get their marketing dialed in, they're starting to generate the revenue. One pattern is it burns a hole in their pocket. And that's rooted deep, right? Like that didn't happen when you started your business. That was part of the language, relationship, how you've treated money in the past. I call it your money selves, your past, your present, and your future money self. And I think what's important to realize about that is if you're generating it and you're spending it as fast as you're generating it, it's always going to put you into a position that you're going to have to feel like you're starting over every month. Like there's not really reserves in there. So one of the patterns is spending it quickly. So for example, a lot of people listening might be entrepreneurs who do launches. Props to you. Amazing way to create real inflow of cash and not have to sell every single month. That's one model that works, or a hybrid model. But if you go ahead and then hire a team of 5 and you're not sure how long that cash is going to last, that may put you in a position to feel that scarcity. And I call it a scarcity launch, where you're like, oh, bank account's dwindling. I've committed to this whole team. When do I need to launch again? And really putting yourself into a position to say, I know that this launch is going to be successful. When the money comes in, I know how long it's going to last. I know what team I need in place for my future offers. It's really creating that visibility, that roadmap for yourself to understand that the decisions that you're making are long-term. I love a James Clear quote. I mean, I love all James Clear quotes, but he says, think long-term, act short-term. And so when you think about your money and your financials, that's another tip that I think applies here too. So that's one pattern, is it's burning a hole in your pocket. The other pattern is I'm afraid to spend it. I've finally got this money. I'm going to hoard it. And as a result of that, I may suffer as a business owner because I'm not in a position where I feel confident to invest in resources, even though I know I'm going to burn out. And so those are two ends of the pendulum, if you will. And somewhere in the middle of that is peace. Okay. And so it's really about trying to determine, what does my business need now? What do I need now to be able to accomplish my goals for, let's just say, for the rest of the year, for the next upcoming year, and starting to make your money and your financial strategy align with that. You know, I had a conversation actually with Chris, and we were talking about when your offers change and you put yourself out there in different ways, your resources change as well. Mm-hmm. Your team may not look the same because what you're putting out there is different. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can automate, maybe you can delegate, maybe you can do some things in-house that you used to contract. And, you know, it's kind of fun to have the ability to make those decisions. But I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that can feel overwhelming. Yeah. So I would invite you to use your community, use your peers, use someone like me as a fractional CFO to bounce some ideas off of and ask questions, because everything has an opportunity cost. Mm-hmm. Everything. Minutes are money, right? Yeah. So how you spend them, how you spend the dollars, I mean, all of those things, if you shift and kind of say, these are really just opportunities for me. And so how do I make the most aligned opportunity for the next best outcome based on the information I have?
So much of what we do as entrepreneurs is oftentimes a big upfront investment. And then a lot of times a monthly investment after that is typically how I've found these payments in business to work. A lot of the things that we do, though, you're not going to see a result. Sometimes 3 to 6 months is kind of a time frame for a lot of different things to get set up, to start working, sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years. So how have you helped entrepreneurs kind of make those decisions, but also sit in that unknown? Have you seen a lot of people struggle in that like unknown and pull back and say, this wasn't working, you know, and go back to what they were doing? And I think that's a lot of why I see some people get stuck, and why I've been stuck, is you want these immediate results for things that aren't immediate.
Yeah, I think, you know, a couple things come to mind. You know, a business is not going to run without revenue, and marketing is a big piece. So when I think of marketing is a great example. There's branding, there's getting to know your voice. There's usually some upfront costs that don't quite convert or translate right away by design. They're trying things, they're testing things. And so how do you know that it's a good fit? How do you know when to try something else and when to pivot? And something like that, I would, you know, suggest, you know, give it that 90 days, get a strategy, get some success metrics in place. Anybody that you hire, marketing or otherwise, should be collaborative. What is going to make this feel like a really successful investment and engagement for both of us? And how do we communicate quickly and often so that we can make sure that things are going in the right direction? Managing those expectations. Now, marketing is one that might take a little bit longer because of the nature of those strategies. But if you're hiring somebody else for admin or VA or a COO or an operations person, they might have quicker deliverables, and they should, right? These are some things that hey, I hired somebody that helped me, you know, streamline my onboarding process. You know, when you think about somebody investing in you, particularly at the CFO level, gosh, you want them to feel held right away. Because immediately when you invest in somebody, you're kind of like, okay, great. We got them on board. Now, I haven't heard from them for a week or two, or I don't feel like I know what the next step is. It was really important to me to bring on a person that could do that for me quickly, quicker deliverable, quicker ROI, in my opinion, because I got my time back. Client experience was enhanced. Those are some of those examples. Investing in a container mastermind mentorship, those are some big ticket items. I think the big thing that I find for entrepreneurs now is don't overextend yourself. You already have a full-time job as an entrepreneur. Whatever you invest in from a container standpoint should get you something, right? Whether it's the network, the community, the tools, the strategies, getting you prepped for another revenue stream. And so if that's the room you need to be in, you need to be able to carve out enough space to show up. You need to have the capacity of time to be able to get in there and really figure out what you want from it. You know, I've been in plenty of containers, and sometimes you don't know what you want until you get in. But I can tell you that when I've spread myself too thin and been in 3 different places, I feel like I can't do any of them well.
Right. So how does somebody who just listened to that and they're like, you just said some really key things, like create success metrics and set those expectations and ask about those expectations from the top, kind of like if when we were, first working together, it's like, okay, Lori, what does success look like? And I name some things that maybe aren't possible yet. Or maybe I say that they are in too short of a time frame. Or maybe there's something that could be done that I didn't think could be done. How do you start setting these metrics and expectations when you don't even know where to start with certainty? It's like, you're like, I have no clue. I've never worked with people. How do I even start and have this conversation of what success looks like for, let's just use examples that people might have on here, like a social media team, an email team, something like that.
They come up a lot with the clients that I work with. If you're hiring somebody, they should be your guide. And having those conversations and being very transparent about, this is what I ultimately want to accomplish. How do you fit into that goal? What can I expect? I am a huge fan of deliverables-based contracts versus hourly. I think that it's very, especially, let's use your social media example. I know that my deliverables they're going to post 3 times a week. They're going to do my newsletter. They're going to create reels for me. They're going to then repurpose them into my stories. Like there's very clear deliverables as to what they're going to do. How long it takes them, it doesn't matter to me as long as we meet our goals.
Hey y'all, I'm so excited to share with you that this podcast, Earn Your Happy, is now a part of the Growth Day Podcast Network. Truly, this is like one of the most exciting things that has ever happened to me. I'm telling you, I no longer feel like I'm doing this alone, and I actually get to collaborate with the people who host the podcast that I'm obsessed with, like that I have been listening to myself, who inspired me to start a podcast, who have taught me about how to go and do the thing, like the original people who got me motivated through listening to their podcasts. You guys, a bunch of us are coming together to bring more growth to the world and to support shows and brands that we believe in. And one of my friends are also on this network, and I'd love for you to go subscribe to their show. You guys, I just had Danielle Canty on of the Boss Babe podcast. She co-hosts it with her other amazing co-host and one of my friends, Natalie Ellis. You guys, you can go check out that podcast on mine. It's episode 925, and Danielle and I talk all about burnout and how that could be showing up in your life, and most importantly, how to prevent it. But I want to tell you, if you have not gone and checked out the Boss Babe podcast yet, go subscribe, because it is one of the largest online communities for ambitious women and female entrepreneurs. And I know that if you're listening to the show, chances are that's probably you. You guys, they have 3.6 million followers and 380,000 subscribers. The Boss Babe podcast is the place where they share real behind the scenes of building successful businesses, achieving peak performance, and learning how to balance it all. Most of all, you guys, truly, these women are in my life. Danielle and Natalie are people that I text on a weekly, monthly basis when I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel stuck. What should I do? I tune into their podcast, you guys, to learn. Even though they're my friends, I am still like crazy obsessed with this podcast because I learn something new every single time I listen. It makes me be a better podcaster. It makes me be a better businesswoman. It just makes me be better and more confident out in the world because they're so real and raw. And I can tell you that in the moments where I have had horrible days, down days, I've either gone and listened to this podcast or I've texted them, because these are the people who truly get it. You want to listen to the people who are walking in the same footsteps that you are. You guys, go check out the Boss Babe podcast. You're not going to be sorry. And it's just going to like make you way smarter and you're going to have way more fun. So go check it out.
Hourly can really become an open checkbook. And I think a lot of businesses, including, my industry of professional services, have moved to retainer. And that's just because things come up, right? And so you get a clear budget, they get a clear deliverables. There's really no question as to if the deliverables were met. It then becomes quality, right? That can be discretionary. Did it sound, were there typos? Was it, in my voice? And did I feel like this is a good fit? Just, are we communicating? Mm-hmm. I think one of the first questions I asked you when we started talking about working together, I was like, how do you want to be communicated to? You've got a lot going on. Are you a text person? Are you an email person? And it's just really important that as we are hired, to support somebody, that we support them in the way that they learn best, that they communicate best. That will set it up for success before the deliverables even start.
I loved that, by the way. It was just like, okay, I communicate best with Lauren.
We all do. She's great.
Amazing chief of staff. But really, like, even that was interesting because questions like that have you really start thinking, like, do you need a point person? What is the best structure? So that's one other thing I want to point out before we really jump into the Money Queen model, because it's so cool that you have this. But you, from the beginning, take almost a very holistic approach. And you asked me questions that I have been using throughout my entire business of really getting me clear, like helping to get the person clear on what is their zone of genius, where is your energy best spent, where are you not like going to be the bottleneck. So can you chat a little bit about that and how you bring people through that process of knowing where their time and energy is best spent and where they are clogging up their business?
Yeah, it's a place where most financial strategies don't start. And I think that's a big mistake. Working with business owners, we've all made a lot of sacrifices to do what we do. Personal sacrifices, we take the risk on, we put ourselves out there. There's already enough discomfort with that. How about we start from the root of it and say, what do I actually enjoy doing? What am I good at? What do I want my life and my week to look like? Because if you understand what you are trying to create, then your business can be structured around that. Now, there's seasons of business. So I know there's some of you out there going like, that would be great, but I'm still trying to figure out my idea and monetize it. That might not be the season that you're in right now. But trust me, the first time you get to be selective about a client, if it's the right energy or not, and you feel like you can actually say no, because it doesn't feel like the right fit, you'll know that you have arrived to this point where you get a little bit more autonomy in it. You start to be able to make decisions differently. So I think that's really important, as far as being a business owner in the different seasons that you're in, starting with the life. So the personal story behind that, because we all have one, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there that might either resonate with my story or maybe are in it. I grew up in corporate. So, I spent 15 to 17 years climbing that corporate ladder and chasing this dream and this life that I thought I wanted. And I did during that time. Like, no shame. I did. I loved it.
For sure.
I was corporate CFO by 30. I rang that fucking bell. I was like, yes, girl, we did this. And it was great for a while. And then it wasn't anymore. And it was up to me to take the ownership and the responsibility to change what I was chasing. And for me, that was the lifestyle that I felt was passing me by. So when you start with getting really clear about what you want, that's when you can start to make decisions in your business to support that.
I love that. And it's a lot of times it's kind of the last thing we look at, because it almost feels in a weird way like selfish, or like, wait, the business needs all of these different things. I don't have the right yet to do that. And yes, I get it. There's a lot of things that even right now where I'm at, I absolutely am not out of the things I don't love yet, because I am not in a place to hire for every single thing. But I do try my best to make sure that on the things that I really can shift, that more of my energy is spent there, and that I'm delegating as much as possible in other spaces, because otherwise it's like I'm too exhausted to even make the impact that I know is the whole reason in the place that I can like really feel strongly and move the business forward in the first place. I think that happens to a lot of people, is like your business starts going backwards because where you make the most impact that only you can make, you've stopped being in it or having the energy for it. And then you think you just suck all around. It's like, no, you don't suck, and you haven't lost your magic. You just haven't been in it enough. So it's such a good reminder. I feel like you're such a good reminder to shine light on that over and over, to keep going, okay, let's really look at this. Like, what's new, what's different, what's changed for you? How's this feeling? What is this looking like? And that's a whole different conversation than I had ever been used to having before. And now it's kind of like that guiding light for me. So let's talk about the Money Queen model. So it's made up of the 4 R's. What are those?
Yes. Okay. So we'll talk about them briefly, each one of them. But I think based on this conversation, we are just so set up for this because it is just timely and timeless. So the first R is a rainbow. And I included this one up front because it is most important. And here's why. The rainbow represents your fuller life. And it's exactly what Lori and I were just talking about. And the reason I chose rainbow is no two people see the same rainbow.
Interesting.
And so what I want to remind you of is if the rainbow represents your fuller life, it's not going to be found on social media. It's not going to be found when someone says you've got to reach this next revenue goal, or you've got to do this launch and have this milestone and this metric, because absolutely no revenue goal is worth your peace. So if you start to get clear and say, maybe I want to travel a little bit more. Maybe I have kids at home. Maybe my lifestyle, working out or having a midday walk is really important to me. Then I want you to look at your supporting offers to say, does that allow me to do that? Am I booking myself with calls all the time? Laura, you just mentioned, when the energy is taken away by doing some of these tasks that you're bootstrapping in the beginning of the business, and you don't get to shine as bright in the areas that only you can do, that's that becoming super ninja with your calendar, right? So identifying what you're actually going for, which I call your rainbow, your fuller life, is the great place to start. And I give some tools and exercises of exactly how I do that, different core values, feel my best kind of lists that you can incorporate and sprinkle into your calendar all week. So that's the first one, is the rainbow. It's got to start there, and it's not going to stay the same throughout your life. We all evolve, thankfully, right? Mm-hmm. What matters to us now might not have been what mattered to us 3 years ago, or even will next week, next month. So constantly checking in with yourself. So that's the first R, is the rainbow. The second R is revenue. And this is so key, right? No businesses are going to run without revenue, at least for the long term. And so I have to put it in here because I have so many conversations with entrepreneurs, and I always, on our CFO monthly calls, we're going through numbers. What are your revenue generating initiatives? Whose calendar is it on? How are we measuring it? Let's reverse engineer the strategy. Mm-hmm. What does that revenue goal mean to you? How are you going to accomplish it? It's one of those things that has to be constant. Whenever we onboard a client, we say, okay, we're going to go through this, and we're just going to ask that you do two things throughout this onboarding process. One, don't make any large investments unless we've already talked about them, because we're building you a money map and we need to know what's happening on the outflow side. Number two, do not take your foot off the gas. Revenue generation, always. When in doubt, generate revenue, whether that's indirectly or directly, or you have somebody else doing it. Those are the kinds of key things that it's like your business is like a vehicle and your cash is the fuel in the tank, right? You just can't get that far without it.
Yeah.
So that's the second one. The third one is resources. Profitability is just the efficiency of your resources. So you can sell all day long, right? But it's not what you sell it for. It's what you get to keep. So the resources that we focus on are 4 of them. It's time, it's energy, it's money, and it's people. So optimizing those 4 resources, and I give you exercises to be able to do that in the book, will help you increase your profitability. There's pricing strategies in there for money. There's cash flow quickie, which I call just to get a little bit of a thumb on your cash flow for the month. And there's hiring tips of investing in people and how I go about it. Like I like to try before I buy. Can we, do a project together? Can we do a collaboration of some sort and kind of see how it feels? From the time standpoint, I do a calendar review. Got to get super ninja with your calendar. What felt good? I do a look back, 30 days, sometimes quarterly. And I write down literally from my calendar, I draw a line down the center of the page, and one says energy plus and one says energy minus. And for everything that's been in my calendar for the last month, I write it in one of the columns. This gave me energy, do more of that. This felt really good. This is aligned with my personal core values. This actually does make me feel like I'm living a fuller life. And then the things on the energy minus, no shame. They happen. They're part of my journey. They just don't need to be repeated. Maybe it was something that took a little bit more time and energy. Maybe it wasn't aligned ultimately. And there's something I could do to maybe pre-qualify that phone call or that coffee date, or maybe that didn't need to be in person, or, maybe I was people pleasing. Oh, God forbid, right? We do that, Lori. Maybe I was people pleasing, and maybe that's something I don't want to do in the future. So there's a ton of exercises and resources that accompany the book to set you up for success. So the 4th R is the rituals. Change your rituals, y'all. You change your results. And I don't want you to have to guess anymore from a financial standpoint. The hell am I supposed to be looking at every month? When do I look at this? How do I do this? Give me a guide. So many of us are just really forever students. If you have the framework, you can follow it. And I like to make it a little bit more fun. I call it a monthly money date. And how do you set the stage, light a candle, play some music, pour a beverage of your choice, make it a relationship type thing, because your relationship with money deserves your attention, just like any relationship in your life.
Yeah.
So the rituals are really the most important actionable item. And that's why it's the fourth R.
I love that, because I will tell you, it doesn't grow if you're not looking at it and paying attention to it. And there were a lot of parts of my life where money it freaked me out to look at it, freaked me out to talk about it. And I felt very disempowered around it because I just had this story in my head. I know you know my story of I never graduated from high school. I'm terrible with numbers. So I went to the extreme other side where I'm like, someone else take it. Someone else who's better at it, someone who's smart, they need to manage it. And yes, I still do that because it's not my zone of genius. But even as we're moving forward, I actually now, which I can't believe I'm saying this, can't wait to have regular meetings to check on all of the money and see what we want to do with it. So I'm very excited, which feels really good. So if you're listening and you feel that way or you're afraid, and it might feel that way in the beginning. In fact, if you already feel that way, it's probably going to feel that way. But then there is a beautiful thing that happens that you start to slowly understand. And you also get to, when you understand, you can see where your best abilities fit. And that's the exciting place, I think, when that marriage happens of oh, I get it. And now I see the impact that I can make, and also the impact of what my team can make. And it just all of a sudden comes together as this whole machine that you had it, but you didn't quite understand how it all worked under the hood. So it's really exciting. I find it very exciting. I know people listening are going to find it exciting. Tell me a little bit about just pulling the emotion out of the 4 R's, because I think as women, and I know you've worked with a lot of women throughout, I'm sure corporate, but I'm sure that was also a lot of men, but then getting into this entrepreneur journey, I know you've worked with a lot of women. How have you been able to have the conversation around not feeling bad about money and making them excited about it and talking about it? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's just slight shifts. If you're listening to that and be like, oh, that's me, you are just a shift away from creating a different belief and mindset around your money. So a lot of times for women, particularly, I've worked with a lot who have families or who have either had somebody else manage their money, maybe a significant other. That has happened, or been through a divorce, and it's just a new season for them. And we really talk about it from, this is actually a tool that represents potential and possibility. You get to change generational patterns in your family. People are watching you, whether it is a sibling, a child. How can you take this money and do good in the world with it? Because that's exactly what it is. Money is like tofu. It takes on the recipe of the dish that it's in. And so it just takes on your flavor. So how do you get to take that money and amplify it with whatever feels right to you? Whether you are building long-term financial wealth, you want to invest in, stocks or real estate, you want to help, you want to do, charitable contributions or philanthropy. It's money goes way further than time, right? So if these are things that are on your heart, then how can we translate and shift those conversations to be able to say, with money, I can do more. With money, I can help more. With money, I can be more. And really looking at it from that standpoint, and there's no shame. I say, make money, make memories, make no apologies for either one of them. It is our birthright. We are worthy. And so making those shifts and showing the power and the impact that you can have with money versus what you can do without it is really where we start to make those shifts. It goes from that, like you had mentioned, avoidance to abundance.
That's good. Definitely went on that journey. Okay. So for you, here's a juicy one. That's great. We can say all that. I know that you feel it, but I know it's because that you've been through some stuff with it. Well, I'm making this assumption because I feel like that's what the dark journey of getting from avoidance to abundance looks like. Tell us about when women read the book, they're ready to be loud and proud out there, and their family says you're money hungry, or their best friend or someone online or in the comments says, don't work with her. I had a bad experience, or she's money hungry, whatever it is, it's coming. And I don't want to scare people, but also you might as well know what to expect because it's normal. And I actually think if it doesn't happen, you're probably not out there enough. So what happens when that happens? Because that's a tough one. It feels like a gut punch and it throws you back for a while.
It absolutely does. And to Lori's point, it will come up. You have outgrown a former version of yourself, and that can make people feel uncomfortable, particularly people that are close to you. Some of them are vocal, some of them are not. Some of them are cheering you on silently, and some of them are maybe ridiculing you verbally, right? Like, so getting to that point, that shift, I think it's really important that you've got a community around you that speaks differently about money, that does support you, because doing this alone is a very hard journey. I did entrepreneurship solo for about 4 years before I joined my first mastermind, my first container. And I really didn't realize there were people out there like me that were going through this. And so one is having a community. But the other thing, I had a business owner, a 7-figure business owner, female business owner, who went through a divorce, was told she wasn't good with her numbers up until that point. We have seen amazing transformation from her over the last couple of years. But here's a comment that came up, and I think some of you will resonate with this, as particularly if you have family or even parents who mean well. They're just not entrepreneurs. My mom wasn't an entrepreneur, and she still thinks they have to put in a PTO request or something. But this particular business owner, we were in a session with her, and she said, I've been traveling a lot. I've built my business over these last several years, and I've been taking some time and enjoying myself. And I have been made to feel guilty. My mom actually said, don't forget, so-and-so, you have a job. And I said, and your response should be, I don't have a job. I have businesses. And that's a shift on itself, because you are building the business to be able to live the life that you want. You're building that machine to be able to do that. And so I am not suggesting that you get into a brawl out with any of your family. I'm just suggesting that you get secure enough in your mission, that you're surrounded with the right people that can lift you up when others are trying to pull you down, and that you continue to move forward. Because there are times we're going to hit a speed bump that's going to feel like a brick wall. And it can depend on the day, it can depend on the week, the time of the month, anything, right, can contribute to this. And some days it's going to hit you so hard. And you just have to know that when that happens, you need to have the tools and the support in place to be able to lift yourself out of it, because the world needs you. You've got a gift. You were called to this for a reason. And so when that happens, not if, use the tools that you can get yourself back into the game faster. And don't shame yourself in the process. Like, I can't tell you how many times, Laura, I've been like, don't I have tools for this? Like, what the hell am I doing? What happened to all that personal development? I feel like
you will momentarily have amnesia, and you might revert back to like a temper tantrum or saying something mean or lashing out, but it will come back to you, and it will get a little bit better.
Yep. It's all about going through it, like with everything, it gets easier over time. I'm doing a lot of firsts this year. You're doing some firsts this year. And when that happens, that's the time where you go, gosh, soon this first will become a second. And maybe a third, and it will always feel better. And then there'll be a new first, because that's just how we're wired. High achieving entrepreneurs, we love to be able to create and stretch ourselves, and it feels scary. And we're like, well, this feels familiar, but last time I made it through. Sometimes I forget. Where are my people? Let me come phone a friend and remind myself who the fuck I am, right?
Yeah. Really is phone a friend time. That's what I do. Or voice note, you guys. It's in real time. That's what it looks like. I'm like, I'm freaking out. I just have to share. I just need to process this. Sometimes I can process alone by voice noting them. Sometimes they need to get on the phone. Sometimes I need 10 of them. So,
and sometimes you talk yourself through it. Do you ever leave a voice note and by the end you're like, and I think I just answered my own question. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Totally. I'm like, and thank you. You don't have to comment back, but thanks for the recorded therapy. So there we go. Okay. So you and I have kind of been on a timeline for a while. I'm trying to think of the first time that I met you. Was that like 4 years ago now?
Yeah. 2019.
We've been through a bit of ups and downs in the economy. There's been a lot of things that have happened since 2019. And we've also been in a room with a lot of entrepreneurs. And there's been stories throughout the years of people that say about the economy or the time that we're living in, even through the pandemic, all of the things. Every year, there's going to be a million reasons why people say it's a bad year to start a business. It's a bad year to raise money. I was told that when I started raising money, I was told I would never, ever fill that fund. And I did. I want to know, what is the difference between those people who continue to keep getting more and more successful on down times? What is that mindset? And what do we do when everyone around us, even our families, say, it's time to pull back. It's time to start saving. You need to worry about what your business is doing. And that story starts, whatever story we believe is going to reflect. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's the nimbleness factor of entrepreneurs. So in a new environment, in a new economy, it just creates different problems, right? And you just need different solutions. So what new demands are out there, right? What new demands have been created by this situation? And what skill sets do I either have or do I need? Or who do I need on my team to help solve those? And the pandemic was a great example of so many different things. I mean, I'm not a personal finance coach, but I pivoted and went right into PPP loans. How can I educate people? How can I help people? What does this actually mean for business? How can we create revenue streams? I webinared my ass off. Yeah. And many of us did during that time. We had the support of each other to be able to say, okay, people are scared. How can we not really minimize everything that's going on around us, but maximize what's happening within us so that we can be strong and we can help others in this time of transition? So many people started businesses. Some people went back to full-time jobs. Some people were like, this is the greatest gift ever. And I think for us, it was really the most important thing was to be able to say, I still have a purpose here. It may not look the same. I may be able to repackage it and put it into a different gift for other people, a different offer or a solution. And I can't unsee what I've already seen as an entrepreneur. For me, I never really have considered going back to corporate. That was a season of my life that I'm grateful for, but it's enough of a motivation for me to want to stay out here, creating, doing, sharing, teaching. And there's just always more to learn. There's always more to share. So paying attention to your environment around you and basically saying, what can I do in my business now during this season? Because there are a lot of people that are not entrepreneurs, and that's by design. It's not for everybody.
Right.
And just because I have people that in my life that are corporate jobs and that's where they feel comfortable, I don't judge them for that. And I don't want them to judge me for doing what I do either. And so it may be a little bit of a cleanse, right? Maybe people don't get your ear sometimes, right? If you can help it. But it's like Lori said, there's always going to be somebody that's going to create a little friction in your life. And it's just up to you to be able to say, how do I wiggle loose from that? Or at least create a space for me to be able to come out of it sooner.
In entrepreneur, you have to learn how to pivot quickly and not be attached and not worry about what people think. Because especially if you're pivoting quickly, it's like people are like, wait, you're doing this now? And they can say all of the things, but the people who need you will find you if you're out there enough. I think that's definitely one of the important things about talking about this is like being the willingness to pivot and be out there and be loud and proud with your beliefs and what you're doing in your business.
Yeah, it's somebody's out there going like, I kind of feel like I'm in that stuck mode. I'm not really sure what's next. And I would invite you to just really sit with this and listen to kind of our shared stories of the evolution of entrepreneurship that both of us have had and the experience that we're doing. And we're going through it too. So it's not to sit here and say that there's not a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I create for myself? Right? Like I always say this, like give yourself permission. If you get it right the first time, did you really get it right? Probably
interesting. Not. Yeah, that's interesting. If you got it right the first time, you might find yourself wanting to do something else quickly.
Yeah.
We just love you. It's falling in love with the challenge. I love that. And money is it's like a beautiful puzzle it will be such an awesome modality of growing you. I think diving into it and really allowing yourself to lean in and say, okay, I'm freaked out, but I'm getting the tools and I'm going to read this book and I'm going to go and see what else Bridgette is up to. I think that is one of the most empowering things you can do is just like slowly start looking at it. So Bridgette, where can we get your book from?
So it's available on Amazon, September 12th.
Just Amazon, Money Queen, you guys. You can go read the book and be a self-anointed money queen after, because you're going to immediately be able to confront or notice something different. What's something you haven't told us that you want to leave us with?
I think right now the biggest thing is we're all in it. And it's so easy to look out there and see people that are further along in certain areas of their life. And just to remind yourself that nobody's immune to self-doubt or, moments that we might feel like we're not on the right track, we're not doing enough. And just giving yourself permission to be like, damn, I'm doing plenty. It is said over and over and over that we look back and say, I once wished I had what I have right now.
Yep.
And that's true. But do we really put it into practice? I know I don't as much. So if there's anything, just to give yourself permission to celebrate where you are right now and just give yourself grace because there's a lot more coming. Our lives are getting more and more exciting by the moment because we're creating it. And that's all right. One of my favorite mantras is I am the source. I create the life I desire.
I love that. Well, I'm so grateful for you. You guys definitely head on over to Amazon and grab this book. What I was telling Bridgette is I'm so excited because it's like one of those perfect size reads. It's like a shorter read, listen or you can read it on a flight. You can probably read it in a couple days. Literally perfect, has all of the nuggets in there, doesn't have all of the fluff. It's amazing. Like you're literally going to be able to have tangible, actionable tools that you're going to use after this. And it's all of the things that I have been able to learn from Bridgette and implement and integrate so that I am not afraid and that I feel I'm in a really powerful place and position to create this business and all my businesses moving forward. So you guys go and check that out. It's Money Queen by Bridgette Boucha. And Bridgette, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for just coming into my life and for making such an impact. And I'm so excited for the future and all of the people that you will get to impact as well. So you guys, one of the biggest gifts that we can do is, of course, go and buy the book, but also let her know what your biggest takeaway was on social media from this. You can just do a little screenshot of this podcast, give her a tag and tell her what your biggest takeaway was. Maybe you were saying yes out loud through the whole thing, or, oh my God, that's me. If so, let us know because we want to know who you are. And until next time, everyone, earn your happy. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. And I want to make sure that you have my phone number, and I'm not kidding. Did you know that I have a community text number? For real. My phone number is 310-496-8363. This goes directly to my phone. All you have to do is text the word daily to 310-496-8363. And I literally text you every single day, Monday through Friday. I actually just got done 30 seconds ago texting a bunch of people back, and I talk to you all of the time. You guys, people always ask me how I got my community text number and how it works. Well, all you have to do is you can just go to community.com and get your own. Community makes it easy to get a phone number that you can use to build your audience using text. People just text you at your number and they're added to your group. Then you can text them out audios, video links, anything you want. You guys, I text out happy birthday videos. I love to send podcast links, thoughts about life, book recommendations, different events that I'm doing in the local area. Texting gets me out of the noise of social media and directly into your hand. And now you can start texting your people too. Just go to community.com to get your phone number. They give you a 10-digit real phone number, not those weird short codes that look like spam, but it's more than a phone number. Your new number comes with an inbox for SMS and texting. This means you can actually manage your text list from your computer and an app on your phone. You can schedule text to send at certain times and to certain groups. You can even set up auto replies or let your assistant or customer service team answer your text messages via Community's awesome dashboard. Just go to community.com and ask for a free demo. They'll show you how it works and get you your number. It's time to start texting your audience versus just posting on social media. Everyone uses Community for that. So go check them out at community.com. I can tell you it's not just great for communicating with my audience, but Chris and I use Community and our texts to also sell out our launches. I'm telling you, you get such an incredible response because you really are creating a true, deep sense of community. And it's so intimate. It's freaking amazing. Go check it out at community.com. Hey, I know if you're listening to this podcast that you have big dreams and big goals. And one of the things that can really stop you is struggling with your marketing. Trust me, I have been there. Are you using 10 different systems just to build your online business? Then I want you to try Kajabi. Kajabi helps you build your web pages, set up funnels, and sell your courses, content, coaching, or communities. You've been hearing me talk a lot about funnels on this podcast and the importance of your email list. You can get a free trial at kajabi.com. That's KAJABI.com. I've talked about Kajabi before, but here's something that's super cool and new. They just rolled out an AI assistant for creating your online course curriculum. And this means you just type in a topic that you want to create on a course or webinar and bam, it just generates a sample outline for you. It takes a ton of the hard work away. Of course, you're going to customize it to be your own, but this really helps you get over the struggle of how in the world to start, which is where most people stop. If you're like me, starting is always the hardest part, and that's what makes Kajabi so popular. They've made it easier for creators to build web pages, build courses, build coaching programs, build membership sites, build checkout pages, and build email funnels. So if you're struggling with any of those, you got to go check it out. Go to kajabi.com. Kajabi was really the first all-in-one system and is trusted by over 100,000 creators. I think that's good enough for me. Also has influencers and marketers who use this. And now their smart AI platform makes it easy to take what you know and turn it into an online course and business. Go start building with a free trial at kajabi.com. That's KAJABI.com.